Hey, y'all, it's Casey on the case.
And Shanteona Keys.
And you are joining us for the inaugural episode of Offshoot FC, where we are going to talk all things the off-season. Was that name as well thought out as possible? I don't know. We'll find out. It could change. If you hate it, let us know. It can be the same workshopping we did for Triple Espresso can happen for this show. So give us suggestions.
For the record, remember, I was not on board with that, with the name. I thought we could do better.
With Triple Espresso?
Yes, you remember during the Olympics, I was texting you, I was like, I see it, but I also don't love it.
No, you were very like, I'm not fully on board. I thought you went the name for this show, and I was like, you didn't tell me that. You're
like, oh, you're fake. Because 2 minutes ago, that was a different tone. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 minutes ago, it was fine. But no, I don't disagree. Triple Espresso could have been slightly better done, but I do like it. And you can sing Espresso, and it's a catchy song.
Right.
So
No. Listen, I mean, I will do what the girlies want to do. I'm just saying for the record that I was not fully on board during the Olympics when this was chosen.
No, we're not. So if you don't know us, we both have our own podcasts and our own content, various places, and I am the soccer girly. And Shanteona, you are not the soccer girly necessarily.
Yeah, no, I'm very much the basketball girly, but my content is pop culture. And I say sports, but there's a lot of women's sports in there for me. So heavy leaning women's sports, but yeah, I love some pop culture. So that's why this show, I like love this. I feel like it's a perfect blend.
Yeah. And that was why when I first watched it, you were like the first person I wanted to talk to about this because you love reality TV. We talk about like trash TV all the time. Yeah. And I was like, I need to know how somebody who's not an NWSL sicko feels about this show.
Yeah. And so, and that was the thing. Like, as soon as I started watching it, it took me back to like watching like Laguna Beach or Real World on MTV.
Really? That's like super high praise. I wasn't there. Yeah. I love those shows. Like I love Laguna Beach and the hills and like all that. But for me, and again, I don't know if it's just that I have too much familiarity, but for me, I was a little bit like, I want to see like certain stories that I'm really curious about.
Right. Well, and I think, when you did text me that, I thought about it. I do think the show is for a casual audience, but also like you have to be into women's sports, I think, to enjoy it. But I could see how like a diehard fan would be like, okay, I know this stuff. Like there's nothing new coming to me. So I can see both sides of it, but I think it's like where I'm at is like the perfect medium for this because again, it has that like reality show feel, but I do feel like I'm learning more about the NWSL at the same time.
Yeah. So do you know, like, as we've just watched 2 episodes, do you know, like, what happens to these players, like, later in the season? Because this whole thing gets taped in, like, December, January of, 2024. So do you have no idea? You're, like, completely blind.
I know that you told me that Midge doesn't get traded, right? Or she does, yeah. So, like, that storyline I know now. And then I wanted to ask you that. Do you think, was it for the show? Like, you know how reality TV, like they tape it they like present this drama for the show. Like, was it on purpose or was she actually looking at leaving?
I don't know. And I think that's going to be the fun thing to watch throughout the season because it's feeling very manufactured to me at this point. Because it's interesting that they don't name the other team they're talking to. I noticed that a lot in episode 2 as they were talking about their trade conversations. They're not saying who they have the conversations with. And maybe that's a rights issue. Maybe that's just good business on their end. I don't know. But with Midge, it's like, maybe it was some drama. I have a feeling that this, from the previews of episode 3, I think this whole is Midge leaving Gotham thing is going to play out the entire season.
Oh,
which, like, knowing leave Gotham and then, unfortunately tears her ACL a few months later after this is all done.
Didn't know that. Spoiler.
What do you want to see? And then, you're looking at it now because I went and looked up her contract details now just out of curiosity before you and I talked. Like, so they have a mutual option for 2025. I don't know what'll happen with that as she's like rehabbing her injury. Obviously, she knows more about where she's at and they know more about where she's at than any of us do. But
explain mutual option, please, for those of us in the back.
Yeah, so and I actually do not know 100% exactly how this works.
Yeah.
But there is like basically they already have a deal in place for what 2025 would look like, but they would have to both sign off on it. So they can just and I do think it's mutual, which again is a little bit silly because if it's mutual, is that not just a new deal?
Right.
So right. So
But it's
but
something that's not already in place. Like they know the terms of it or they don't.
they do. So it's
And
already basically as part of the deal that she signed at the beginning of 2022, which went through the end of 2024, there was a 2025 option. So, and I don't
okay,
think those are one-sided anymore, where it's just the team opting to keep the contract. I think the player has to opt in as well,
got it.
which is why they're now framing them as mutual options. But again, that's just a new agreement almost.
Well, and what I thought, and even if this does kind of like drag on and that is the storyline and it's manufactured, I thought it brought up a really good conversation when she's on the phone with her brother and she says, he says, is it pride? And I'm thinking, like, do you think men have those conversations when they are negotiating with sports teams?
Never. Never. I really don't because the money is like, get your back. I don't understand it. And I think her getting injured this season perfectly encapsulates that.
Yeah.
Because, like, she could have signed, she was NWSL, like, MVP of the championship, wins the championship. She was pretty much, that's like top of her market of where she's ever going to be able to, like, wheel a deal. So, yeah, I would go sign a new deal somewhere else at that point if I were her. These careers are short. I really enjoy that portion of this show when the players are talking about the economic realities of being a professional athlete as a woman and how like it really does matter because they only have 10 years to make money, which we don't even talk about sometimes for on the men's side. That's a real struggle. But for women, when you're looking at, okay, like the 10 years most people are spending establishing themselves in some other career, you are making still maybe about the same amount of money that somebody's making at a desk job, but you have nowhere to go afterwards.
Right.
So every dollar counts. And I find that just fascinating, but I wonder if she's got any regrets about dealing at this point.
Right. Well, do you think how much do you think she could have made in a deal somewhere else? And do you know what she signed for at Gotham?
I don't off the top of my head. The thing is, most of the deals are not public. We get like estimates of what the players are paid. We know what the transactions are between the teams, and there's like whispers of what it is. But the salary information is not public in this league.
Interesting.
Yes, which is always causing a whole bunch of question marks about like salary cap and okay, hold up, the math ain't math and how much are people making? And what I think people aren't understanding with this league is like the growth in salaries here is astronomical. If I were an agent or really anybody advising any kind of player at this point, short deals. Like if you are under 32, short deals. Once you're over 32, you take as long of a deal as they'll give you. But because even if you get injured and even if you have some kind of a drop off in form or just other opportunities and maybe where you're at and playing, you being like top of market player in 2020 who gets like locked down to a long deal, that's not even what like an average player is getting paid in 2024 now. So those longer deals, as long as we continue to see astronomical growth in this game, are not going to be beneficial to players. Like they got to keep those things short, I think.
So how do we know what Maria, like she got that $1 million contract? So did she just tell everybody that or like how? Oh, I see.
Yeah. Because at the time she was reportedly the highest paid player in the league. She no longer is. Sophia Smith's deal pays more. But at the time she set a new record. So even then we don't know the exact specifics. It's all kind of rumored like for how these things work. But yeah, she set the new record was what was reported at the time.
Interesting. And first of all, I don't know. There's something about her I really like. I don't know if it was like the story about her family or like she's just incredibly like chill and like, I don't know how to explain it, but I really enjoyed watching her. But back to the Midge thing, I thought, wow, like what a stark contrast from men's and women's sports. Because again, I don't think that's a conversation ever had on phone with a family member about that. But also like when she talks about her value to her club, I know men, of course, have that conversation, but the conversation of, are you more valuable to what? I wrote it down. Hold on, let me see. I just was so fascinated. Oh, he asked her, what do you want? Is it a championship or is it money? And I thought that's a universal sports kind of question, I think. And she says, I want to make money. And I think women, frankly, at this point in their careers, need to be chasing money. So the fact that even the conversation of the championship, I thought was, I don't even know what word I would put on it. I didn't like it. It was like, for me, that was such a negative aspect of the conversation that they were even having.
Yeah, and it's also just like an odd thing within soccer, I think, because to me, when we talk about like things that matter, it's the World Cup. It's the Olympic gold.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure winning an NWSL championship is fun too. But she's already done that once. So what are you chasing really? Like, you're not going to see like dynasties happening within women's soccer in this league. I just don't see that becoming a thing. So you're not chasing it the way you would be like the NBA or even in the WNBA, obviously you have some of that, right?
Right.
You're not chasing the same thing there. Soccer's different where it's very seldom about like these teams in these leagues. Like it's such a rare occurrence. So at that point, like go get your money. But I think the counterpoint is within women's sports, and this is true in men's too, I guess, but I think to a bigger degree in women's sports, if you know you're in an environment where you're set up to succeed and you're going to get those looks for national teams, I think that's very important too for ambition. So that's kind of, I guess, the question I would have been asking more is obviously she's doing well at Gotham and she's got, more eyeballs on her for the bigger stage there. So I think that's kind of the bigger, more interesting factor that I haven't seen people explore yet on this show, but I'm curious about.
Yeah, I even think about, the super teams that have been formed in, the NBA or the WNBA. WNBA less often, but in the NBA, when a super team is formed, you see the stars taking cuts, right? And of course, we're talking in millions of dollars, right? Like that. It is right. Like, I hate to get 10 less million, which that's a lot of money, but LeBron James can afford to take that hit, right? He's got endorsement deals outside. And so I just thought that was a very interesting conversation that we rarely see. And I think that's what I also like about the show is conversations that, the girl, I think her name is Kelly, where she's talking about having a baby at the end. Is her name Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly.
She's talking about having a baby at the end. And that's a conversation that I've been incredibly interested in, most notably when Serena was out after having Olympia. Like this conversation of women having to give up their careers and men that's never even a conversation that has to be had. And so I thought that was like a peek into that conversation, but I think that, you could talk for days about that. And how that impacts women's sports in such a crazy way.
Yeah. And you could even like thinking of I'm constantly kind of thinking of other angles that I think would be really fun to see of like this type of content. I would watch a show about moms in the NWSL and like what that, because there's a lot of moms in the NWSL and, folks I think, and it's just kind of I think thing that professional women face in other capacities too of like, when is the like least inconvenient time to do that? And when
did
you're
you
dealing
see
with
Midge's face when she's like, oh, at the end of the season, she's like, at the end of the season, what?
Yeah, well, it's this that I'm looking and I'm like, oh, she's been on the bench quite a bit lately.
Like maybe you should have tried during the season, girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could talk about Portland's backline. Portland's backline where Kelly plays is like my they need to not be starting Kelly. I got some feelings like Kelly needs to play.
Okay.
But now I'm like she's not. I think she was on the bench for their last game, so I don't think she's out. And that's kind of the other really weird thing that happens with women's sports is sometimes we have players where it's like excused absence or illness. I'm like, there's not really any conversation about what's going on with them. People start speculating, and I'm like, no other part of life would this really be a polite speculation. And and I don't really think it's a polite one here, but at the same time, it's like, what else if I start seeing somebody with a mystery illness listed for 3+ weeks, I'm like, gonna assume. But
interesting. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about from like a soccer person aspect. Hold on, let me see. Is Midge a part of, like, is she someone that the national team is looking at, or was she before?
Yeah, so she missed out on the World Cup roster in 2023, and that was a controversial exclusion. I think a lot of people felt like she should have been in there. She did have some injury trouble earlier in the year that I think kind of set back her trajectory with like making that roster. But she would have been on the Olympic roster, I think, fairly solidly had she not gotten injured. So she was doing well. I think she provides a pretty like good skill set. But
This is the ACL injury?
Yeah, this year's the 2024 ACL injury. So there's no that's 9 months at least.
Right.
Generally. So yeah, but I think
nowadays it's like a year.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. Yeah. Same with your Kristen.
What'd you say?
Or two if you're Kristen Press.
Yeah. Yeah. She's injury prone though, isn't she?
You know, she hadn't been super injured really before this, but then I'm like, four surgeries, and I'm still like, listen, this is somebody else's medical business, but I'm still like, after the third one, were you not like maybe a different surgeon?
Oh, same one? Oh no.
I think we were told at some point, but I was very curious. I was like, I might be getting a different doctor at that point.
Oh geez. How old is Lo? Or like around what age?
31. 30. I think she was so 30 at the start of this. Yeah.
Okay, they make her seem like she's so much older.
She's old. Like I had to go check. I actually did. I was like, I think she's my age. And then I looked. I'm like, no, she's not my age. But she kind of has like crusty 35-year-old energy.
Like back in my day. But like when she talks about getting 4 figures, you're like, oh, you were part of that class of NWSL players. But you also think about that wasn't that long ago.
No. No.
But it's also crazy that she wasn't in the top 11 on her team if she was, this heavy contributing person on the team. Like, what is that about? And I guess, did she sign like a long-term deal? Was that the issue?
Well, I think it's that. I think it's not having an agent. So one of the beautiful
that was so weird. Episode 1.
Bizarre. And again, I get it when you're only making 4 figures that you're probably like, not like, let me give somebody else like 10% of my money. When you're only making 4 figures, that tracks that would be not necessarily a good decision. But at this point, like the nice part about having an agent is like they do know what deals everybody else is signing because they generally have multiple clients and they talk. And you might not be able to even get that information yourself as easily. Maybe I don't know what the conversations are like around money with these teams, but I have to imagine they're a little cagey. And people aren't necessarily sharing that information with each other.
Yeah, which in like every other, which I mean, again, it's typical for women, but I feel like in the last 10 years, there's been this idea that women should be sharing what they make for this very purpose, that people aren't able to wheel and deal behind their backs this way. But I thought that was so strange, but like, again, very enlightening conversation because as a non-NWSL follower, it was like, wait, what? You wouldn't have an agent and you're one of the best people on your team? Like that doesn't even make sense. But she's only 4 years older than Maria. Like, but you would think that I think that was probably what aged her, is that she was saying, how much she made and then her not having an agent. But I thought back to my very limited women's soccer knowledge that I remember Mo Bryan, she used to like during the season live with, I don't know if it was Stan Van Gundy or his brother, but he and his wife used to let her and I think maybe Kelly O'Hara like stay at their house while they were in season because they made so little. And I just remember, I don't know if that was like a documentary, I don't know if that was an interview, but that couldn't have been that long ago. And that's wild to think about.
No. And one of the things that when they finally got a collective bargaining agreement in place here, that the league actually had to provide was housing, because for a while that was, I mean, you can hear stories about Sky Blue FC, which used to be, which is what Gotham is now. They've rebranded the club for a variety of reasons. That was a horrific housing situation. I believe Magic Jack had they were in Florida. That's like, we would have to talk for like an hour to go through Magic Jack. But like, I mean, I think they like were stuffing them all in like one house, like type of thing. And like, it was, like, so the standards for professionalism within this league have been really interesting. And the conversation, of course, that's happening right now is about the, so Angel City, my team, got some points deduction because they were over the salary cap, and they've now come out and said it was because they were providing childcare. benefits, and that those within the league terms are not allowed to count toward, basically that counts toward your salary cap. So that's how they ended up over. So now you got like Sydney Leroux, who obviously like one of the more well-known mothers in this league, comes back out and is, saying this is atrocious. So, that we should be doing
wild.
Yeah.
Why would that even count toward a salary cap? Like, why would that even be? I mean, obviously, it would seem like an advantage over another club if they can't provide it, but wow. So, okay, so WNBA, in the last couple of years, there's been facilities specifically built for these teams, and that's kind of what separates a lot of the clubs. I say clubs. Oh, I guess I'm a soccer person now. These teams. Oh, yeah.
I think sad how the verbiage goes. Like, I sound like European sometimes now because I say matches. And I'm like, I'm talking about baseball. I'm like, the baseball match. And I'm like, what in Europe?
Yeah. But, teams like New York, teams like Phoenix, like building these facilities, it makes them stand out. Players want to go there. They went to college where they were treated in a certain way, these elite programs. And then they go and they don't even have their own gym to get into at night. And so, you have the Aces. They just built one. So for the NWSL, do they have their own facilities, most teams, or is it kind of
some do, no? And it's a really good point. Some of these teams are getting new facilities. Some do not have them. Angel City does not have a dedicated training facility. Most of them ended up sharing a college space somewhere else. And it's not necessarily even like a high-end college space because obviously teams that have top college teams there, they need their facilities. So BayFC has announced they're building a training facility, and somewhat confusingly for the Bay Area, they play in San Jose, but now the training facility is going to be on Treasure Island, which is very close to me, as opposed to where they actually play. And I'm delighted. I'm like, wait, Bay Area now. But if I was somebody who decided to buy a house in San Jose or something, which I don't think they did because it's expensive to live down there, but I'd be kind of upset that my new training facility was an hour and a half away from where I play with traffic.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a similar, it's not, I don't know how far these places are that you're talking about, but Atlanta plays in a place that is probably 20-ish minutes from the city. The heart of the city is where they used to play, and now they're by the airport. So that has always been a bit confusing. But similarly, the Braves, they play 30 minutes north of the city now. So I guess it's not that abnormal, but yeah, I think it hurts the fan base, frankly. But it helps sadly, it helps the atmosphere for the Dream because the arena is smaller, so it's better for that, but it makes it less convenient to get to, which I don't think always helps the women's game.
No, I think you can make it easy for people to go.
Yeah.
It's my thing. I'm going to be big into WNBA as soon as the Valkyries come. I can take the fair.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on that boat. I'm going to be so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for, Atlanta was the last expansion team. I think that's right. Or, yeah. Maybe Dallas? No, Dallas was something else. Anyway, bottom line, I think Atlanta was the last expansion team. And every year we have the same conversation about there's not enough spots. There's not enough spots. This is the most elite country in terms of basketball. And, we've only got 144 spots. So I'm excited for that. Do they run into that issue in the NWSL? Or I imagine we're not. Well, are we the best? Yeah, I think you know what I'm asking. Are we the best?
That's a whole. I think I get into fights with people on my TikTok probably once a month about this question. Okay. I think the same as with most things soccer. There's a couple different leagues depending on the way what does the best mean, right? I think this is the best if you look at the bottom compared to the top, it has the most parity, and in that sense it's the best. But stylistically, are there other leagues and other teams that I enjoy watching for the NWSL?
Yes. Oh, you're talking about the league itself. My question is the talent pool. So basketball-wise, we are the best talent pool that there is.
Yeah, not necessarily. Same thing, because I think the other countries have, Spain, it's just insane, the talent that's coming out of Spain. A lot of other countries and their developing leagues there have, pretty insane talent. And that's just development pipelines work really differently for soccer. And I'm curious to see what's going on with Canada because now they're getting a league too. So is the talent, at the same time, we now have a secondary league within the U.S. We have the USL Super League, which is also a Division I sanctioned league, which just means it's got a certain standard of professionalism. But that's going to provide a lot more opportunity because not nearly as egregiously as it is for the WNBA. Because I know that's like a massive issue that there are talented players that like don't get to keep playing because there's just not space for them. It's not to the same degree, but it does happen still quite a bit in the US. So getting more like I mean the number of people who like have to go play in Iceland because there was nowhere else for them to play.
Yeah.
Like I don't like Iceland. Uh
Fair. I think that's probably fair. They have good springs though. But I also heard from someone from Iceland that they're like the tourists are coming and we don't want anyone to come here actually.
yeah. Well, they do and they don't. Like their economy was really struggling until they got onto the tourism thing. And
Oh,
now the
okay.
tourists are ruining their natural attractions, and it turns out
Yeah.
the tourists are great, and I get all that. But I found the people to be they were not rude to me, but they were very rude to my friend who I went with, and I think they frankly weren't rude to me because I'm another like giant blonde person, so they just thought I was one of them.
Yeah.
They were, like super rude to my friend who I went with. And it was
Really?
just also very cold and
That being the number one problem, it's really cold.
yeah. I was in the warmest week of the year, and I was so like,
Oh yeah,
so cold.
no, I don't do cold very well, and I get all 4 seasons here, and I'm just no, can't do it. But let me see. I feel like
Still, I guess. Let me ask you: are you enjoying the their reality show part of this or not? Because it's not working for me.
the only part that I have not liked so far is the tarot card reading. It's like, what? What are we doing? Like, did y'all not have anything else? Like, and I get what they were trying to show. They were trying to get, paint in the lines of like who some of these people are. Some of them are into the spiritual thing. Some are, just like they're dynamic as a group. I got what they were trying to do, but it went too long for me. And it was only like 4 or 5 minutes. And I still was like, nope.
No, well, that was the elevator for me. I was like, I don't.
Oh, the elevator.
I don't actually like why are you in this elevator this long? Like I genuinely don't understand what has happened.
The producers left them in there. That's all it was. Because
No,
when
so
they do go to get them, it's just a producer whose face they don't show, and they just open the door.
Like, did I get paid extra for that?
No, but to me, that does feel like a very MTV real world thing. Like they would keep them somewhere like that and be like, oh, look how much they're struggling. What could we get from that?
Yeah, even then they didn't like show and a lot of it. I don't know.
No.
It was like both too much of it and too little at the same time. So that's been. I was kind of told there would be some drama and there'd be some. I'm waiting for them to like have a night out. I'm waiting for like something,
But,
and
okay, so that I think that's hard. I think, do you have a reality TV show about these women athletes and have it be messy? I worry about that. Even though women are complex and we should be able to show that and all of that. Just like I text you about, should that first episode include their conversations about teammates dating teammates? And it ended up being in the second episode. I thought it was from the preview, the first episode, but it ended up being in the second episode. And my worry about that is, like, I don't know, it just feels kind of cheap. And like for someone who's like superficially watching the league, like I just feel like it needs context a bit.
Yeah.
And they just kind of breezed over it in this episode too.
No. Well, it's like I'm so torn because I think anything that generates interest into the league is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the relationships and that kind of stuff absolutely drives interest into the league.
Right.
But also like they're professional athletes.
Exactly.
And like I don't think it should only be about that. But the nature of when they have filmed the show and the way they're doing it, like you gotta give me something else here. Because if it's going to be only these like athlete stories, I would want to see the season play out. Like I would have loved to follow some of these players through their seasons, especially knowing Like, you got some people here who spend time on like multiple, like 3 different teams, like
Oh,
during.
shoot.
You got a lot of people who do that, and I recognize just from like a production perspective that that's not super viable the way it
Right.
would be for like a Drive to Survive or something where the competitions are the same place constantly.
Right.
But like, I would love to see kind of the way those things are evolving. And if you're gonna just give me an off-season house, like I do want some mess. I want
Right.
like you gotta go out.
For
Somebody's
sure.
gotta go out, do something. Like
And it would do better. I mean, I think if we're being honest, it would do better. It's just like the bots of Instagram would just be so annoying to deal with, I think. Like I think the conversation online would be obnoxious. Not amongst women's sports fans, I don't think. I think we would get it. We understand the complexity. It's just what would be said on SportsCenter is what I'm annoyed. I'm going to be annoyed by. Like, what are we talking
for us too? Yeah.
Yeah, I just something about them being messy. Maybe not this first season. Maybe we creep into like messy or just a little mess that like we can keep a good storyline and like some drama, but also, again, like you said, they are professionals at work. So
Yeah. And I have a feeling like they keep saying Kelly is the wild one. I'm waiting for Kelly to, do something to show that.
yeah,
I think Taylor's got some drama, in her that she can bring to this as well. I would like to see a little bit more.
wait,
Like
which one was Taylor?
the one with all the chains. There's like running like she's picking out her chain.
That's so funny. Why don't I remember her?
First episode. In this episode, she got like a tarot card reading.
Oh, her. Yes. Yes. I also did like the way they just like breezed through like the sexuality conversation where it was like so normal. Like it was just, and they just kept it moving. And I just feel like that can always be, sometimes that can be heavy handed the way that they do it in shows in general. And it was just like something that was said. And we talked about teammates dating, which I think we could have a podcast on that in and of itself. But yeah, like I like her. She's the one that for me is the most like entertaining from a reality TV standpoint.
Yes, 1000%. Like it's not necessarily that I think she's gonna be messy. I just think she's got. I pay attention when she's on the camera. Like
right, she's got that like spunky it factor. She's asking crazy questions. She's not embarrassed. She doesn't seem to be embarrassed easily. Like I think she'll be fun.
Yeah, I know.
But also don't do tarot card reading episodes where we have to spend 5 minutes of the 20-minute episode.
No.
But again, I get why they did it. I just think like it looked like they ran out of material.
And some of this is maybe that it's like their first time, and that obviously I think even the creation of this came together kind of quickly.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, are you guys gonna have like a boat day? Can't we like go out on a boat? I just feel like that would be good.
You know what I also want is more soccer.
Do you?
I do. And I guess that's the two different vantage points, right? Like you see them play all the time. Like you want more stories behind the scenes. I feel like their training sessions, I feel like go by so fast. And I did enjoy like, okay, they were rehabbing and talking about things at the same time, like being able to kind of accomplish those things as well. But I want to actually see them like going at it at training. So maybe it needs to be a longer episode. I don't know. There needs to be a good balance of both, I think.
Yeah. And so the rehabbing scenes worked for me. I thought that was fun. I think like the thing that makes the training scenes weird for me is like it's an off season where they're like, oh, they're my competition. I mean, like, yeah, when you see them on the field, like, in the middle of the season, but I like, if I'm going to get on field content, I want it to be almost like Hard Knocks style, where like, give me some people that got drafted or in camp and like trying to make a roster. I will eat that shit up. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That's really fun for me. But this, I'm just like, we're just training. It really ain't that deep. Like, it just
is it going to be 2 weeks? Is this like, does this amount to a 2-week show?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were they there even 10 days? 10 days, 2 weeks, something
like that's my other thing. I think it has to be like a month or so where people are getting on each other's nerves. Like we're getting drama in that way. Because 10 days, you can be with anybody.
Yeah.
Well,
if I'm in a hotel and I could like, leave for a little bit, and decompress,
I just
then I
mean
can.
for making money on a show and increasing, your brand, improving your brand, you could do that for 10 days.
Yeah.
If there was a creator house for 10 days, you could make it work.
You would want me in the creator house because I also have a low likelihood of making it work, and I'm probably going to be drunk.
You're like, I am the mess. I would be the mess.
I just get very, I will get impatient. Like, I always joke I'm a delicate ecosystem. And so it's
Okay.
like, it's like, why is there not any protein here? Like, why is there only bread? I don't understand. And I will like lose it. That will not go well for me. Like, oh, you were up late and being loud? No. Like that
Yeah.
will not go for me. I will, and I'm not quiet about it. So
No, I feel that. I do feel that. I feel that I would guess that is you, but I would also, as me, I feel that as well. Like being loud when we got work in the morning. I don't like that. We got to get up and work out. Nope. Okay. Like, let's be adults. You're an adult. Go to bed. But I feel like Midge. Say again.
go ahead. No, go.
I said I feel like Midge is like the serious one. Like Lo is certainly serious, but because of that, she feels older. But like Midge seems like she's like a no BS kind of gal when it comes to the soccer aspects.
Yeah, I think that's probably spot on. And I don't know if that's like how she's obviously like you have to acknowledge that she is a producer on this as well.
Right.
So I wonder how much of that is like that's the role she has cast herself in, is that she's got to be like the Lisa Vanderpump of this house.
Don't watch that show, but I get what you're saying. You know what? I did realize the only reality TV show I really watch is like Bachelor franchise.
You do Love Is Blind though too, don't you?
No, I did the first 2 seasons, and I was like, I'm out of here.
I love that for you because I did the first 5 and the 5th one, which I think was Houston, that broke me. I was like, I can't do this again. Like,
Too much.
it didn't. No, I was like, these were such trash people who like, and if you want trash reality TV, I'm a big fan of Are You the One on MTV. That was fantastic. Loved that one. And I love Temptation Island. Like, if we're gonna have trash, like, give me trash. Like, I want
Wait, what is
garbage.
Temptation Island on?
Okay, so Temptation Island is on USA Network, and they have this host, Mark L. Wahlberg. So he's not Marky Mark, but he's this other like lovely man who seems like actually want to help them grow. So these couples come there. Are you familiar with the concept generally?
Nope.
Okay, so these couples come there who are like at essentially, shit or get off the pot type of moment.
Uh-huh.
And whatever it is, they're there to figure out if they are moving forward and like taking a bigger step together or not. So naturally, the way you would test that is that you would move into separate houses with all singles of, like
Okay,
the
I've
opposite.
seen the previews. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And then, of course, every episode you have a fire meeting with Mark Wahlberg where they show you like 30 seconds of like your significant other's absolute worst behavior.
The low light.
At it to like just make you freak out. So then you're like, he doesn't love me anymore, and then you go make bad decisions. It's like, and sometimes there are these like really moving stories where people have like great personal growth, and other times there's like a threesome in a bathroom, and you're just like, what? You all are on television, like you gotta go back to work somewhere. Like this show did not
Your
make me
mom
well.
might be watching this.
It's so good. No, but it's
Yeah.
like you're either trash, like give me trash. And my issue with Love Is Blind is like I fell in love with the love story element of it.
Mhm.
And then that has not delivered. And I went back this season because it's DC. And I was just curious what kind of like I thought I was gonna get like political people and that was gonna be fun. And no, we did not. We just got some like honestly really terrible men. Like there are a couple women not great either, but mostly like really terrible men, and I'm bored watching it too a lot of the time.
Because
So
you encounter that in your real life. Awful men are everywhere.
yeah.
I was just recording the podcast before I came on here with you, and I just posted a video earlier today, just like talking about WNBA coaching being fired or coach being fired.
Right.
And now my comments are on fire with like Iron Baby One telling me, Caitlin Clark saved the WNBA or that, it's still a $40 million deficit at the end of the year. I'm like, who are you? Like, Yeah. So sorry. I'm a bit sensitive right now because my phone is literally every few seconds is buzzing for that very reason. And it's usually a man.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the terrible men who all think that this is the situation, and it's always something, and I don't know why they feel entitled to be like part of this conversation suddenly. I'm like,
right,
y'all don't even be now, like,
right,
I don't understand.
Right. It's Caitlin Clark or nothing for them, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. I can't deal. But I feel like the NWSL. I feel like there's got to be a Caitlin Clark on the way. No.
I don't think we're ever going to have this issue. I've thought about this quite a lot. We're never going to have this issue because soccer is never going to be the same level of sport in this country as basketball is.
Okay.
And for that reason, like, you can't even get men's soccer coverage on ESPN hardly. So, we don't have to worry about Stephen A. Smith talking about women's soccer because he's going to talk about soccer.
Okay. I mean, I say I disagree. I know nothing about soccer. So, but things like this show, to me, like if you have to make a brand outside of the sport. That's the only way this is, sadly, right now, the only way that women's sports works is there has to be story outside of the game in some form or fashion. And you could argue Caitlin Clark was a baller and she had all these different accolades during college and that's what it was. It's like, no, that's not why she was on TV every 5 seconds. It was because of the storylines that were around her, whether it be the Angel Reese, whether it be the all-time scoring and all that kind of stuff. But Kelsey Plum had done the same thing 4 years before that, 5 years before that. So we had seen it in the game. So it clearly wasn't that. It's the geographics are playing a part of it, right? Like where she is in the Midwest, that matters. Basketball in the Midwest in that way matters. So it certainly was a phenomenon in a lot of ways, but I do think women's sports have to have that thing that people can latch onto. And I argue that's the same with like LeBron. I mean, LeBron's not a phenomenon. I mean, he's a freak athlete and he's a freak basketball player, but
the story.
People attach themselves this long for over 20 years to his story. So hopefully there is a Caitlin Clark. Maybe Caitlin Clark switches sports. Maybe she pulls like Michael Jordan.
I can see that. That could be kind of fun.
Well, you see she's been out playing golf lately. Like they're saying she's pretty good at golf, apparently.
That makes me nervous for her back. But
really? Oh, I don't play golf, so I say that I don't know.
I don't play golf either, but like I've seen occupational hazard in my real life. I've seen some things.
Yeah, and I've seen Tiger Woods. That's all I know. Like Tiger Woods has back issues, major back issues. So, but they also say there's something about his swing that makes that true. Like the way he learned how to swing his club makes his back more like he has to use his back more than the normal person, I guess. Yeah. Like more, strain on it.
I did not know that, but
anyway, I don't know how we got to talking about Tiger Woods.
I know. We're like, come listen to us talk about this reality TV show. Also, let's talk about Tiger Woods' back.
Why not? We're all things sports. And I also want to say before we log out of here that how professional am I? I have been. It fell along like 10 minutes ago, and I've just been holding it right here. So I just would like
the record. You've been killing that, honestly, and
the record to show.
Tell me, and we can pause.
I know, but I felt like we were flowing, we were going. I was like, yeah, it's all good.
It was a vibe. So I guess on that note, you can join us again next week after we watch episode 3, and we have probably another 20 minutes of is Midge gonna leave Gotham, with 10 minutes of maybe somebody doesn't like spicy food. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like I hope they need to they need to take like a trip somewhere, like a cute little field trip somewhere.
Yeah,
or a challenge of sorts.
Yeah,
like
laser tag. Like I feel like laser tag.
Yeah. But I also feel like we're gonna get on the podcast and go, how lame was that laser tag? Like, like we're like, oh, all these great ideas.
I think I've ever been anybody like from the show season. They're like,
no. Yeah, next season, laser tag, please. No, we want longer. We want long. I would personally like longer episodes. More soccer. Maybe it's 75-25. Like 25% like intense soccer information and stuff, and then 75% mess, having fun, entertainment. I think that's the ratio I want.
I can see that. I think again, I would like it if it was more of a Hard Knocks format if we go that route, which I think there is room for Hard Knocks in this league.
I have
1,000%.
not seen it. I
haven't seen a Hard Knocks, so it's good.
listen. I know, and it's hard. I don't know if it's like shows that everybody watches. Like I just never jump on. I don't know what it is because I've heard of it. I know it's on Netflix, right?
No, so that's a different one. So Hard Knocks is
HBO?
on Max.
Okay, Matt.
HBO.
Okay.
Whatever we're calling it.
So what's the thing on Netflix though? There's a sports show that everybody loves.
Yeah, they do one by positions. Like it follows like players by positions.
No, I'm thinking of what it's like something you. Something you.
Oh, last season.
Okay, sorry. I've also never seen that. Like I'm watching all the like most random things, but again, I'm in the pop culture space, so I'm watching a lot of other random things as well.
I always like to get the recommendations from you on those, though. That's the good.
Yeah. I don't know, sports shows. And before we get out of here, could you think of another reality TV sports show in this like same category? I couldn't think of anything.
Not recently, no. Okay, this is gonna be a deep cut. On Disney Channel, they had a sports show. They followed a like girls basketball team. They were like U14s trying to play for a state championship, and I missed the finale because I was in Europe. I didn't get to see it, and I like still think about it because you
like,
couldn't.
What happened?
No, I didn't.
Wait, okay, I'm a Disney kid, so how do I not know what this is?
No, it was so good. They were like, they were. I forget what state they were in, but like,
oh my gosh,
we're gonna look this up and try to find this, or I'm sure somebody
please.
Yeah. So I can like see the faces in their uniforms. I just can't tell you the name of the show.
That's amazing because I mean I've been a basketball player for I feel like a long time, and I certainly was still watching Disney Channel. Wow, I'm very intrigued now. Also, what day did the show post on Twitter? Because I didn't. Fridays, perfect. Okay, great. I'll be ready. When you text me about it, I was like, oh crap, I have to watch this.
I know. I had to get it in today too because I had not had time to watch this Friday. But
wait, are you looking it up or no? Are you looking up the Disney thing? I thought that's what you were doing.
No, I don't know.
I thought I was being a good girl host. I was filling time.
No,
I was like trying to fill time. I'm like, oh, she's looking it up. I'm gonna have this epiphany about the show.
If you Google Disney Channel girls basketball,
it's
only themed, which that tracks. That's also
right, rightfully so.
Totally Hoops. It was called Totally Hoops.
Wait.
It followed the Dayton, Ohio Lady Hoop Stars.
Casey, why do I not know this?
I don't know. Yeah, it was a 14 under AAU basketball team. It was great.
Wow. I don't know how I don't remember this, and I'm actually quite disappointed in myself because this is not
right up your alley.
Right. And this is like Zook Disney days. Like this is I'm so sad for me. I love Disney Channel. Like I remember telling my mom, like, I'm gonna watch Disney for the rest of my life. Like I remember that. Like I remember being a preteen, like convinced I was never gonna stop watching it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then you did.
And then I did. Of course, you have to. Okay, well, I think that's it.
All right, well, join us next week. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, wherever, and join us again for the next episode of the Offshoot FC.
Bye.